Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome, Nick. It's so good to see you. It is great.
Nice to see you too.
Absolutely. It's been a
Yeah.
while, and let's see how everybody's doing out there. Uh, we have a very busy chat, Nick. They've been waiting since yesterday. And we have, yeah, actually, well, I set it up. And you know, what I do is I set it up, and everybody can then chat. And it's kind of cool, like a little chat room before we do this. So let me say hi to everybody. Hi,
Yeah.
Kim.
Cool.
And hi, hi, Rich, Diana, and I have a special shout out to Rich, and he knows for what. Thank you. He's a wonderful, wonderful person. And Karen Reese and Phil Stone. Phil is home from the hospital. We wish him well and his healing from his surgery. And Old Sage Joe and Raza and Cindy Seeley. Hi, Cindy, and thank you too. And Lightning Rod and Poppy. Great. So we're going to get started. Hi, Peter John Katz. We'll get started. And Robert Arahu. Hi, and Naz. Jim, you're here. Great, Jim McHenry's here. So this is awesome. Well, Nick. So, what is going on? Give us the dirt before we go into the Pennsylvania climate impact. So, give us the dirt about you. What's going on?
Yeah. I've been accepted into a PhD program in emergency management at North Dakota State University, starting in fall of this year.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. So tell us a little bit about this and what's going to happen and what you're moving. I mean, your life is going to change a lot, but what's not going to change is you will always be with us. That is not going to change. We will be here. We are constant. So tell us all about it.
Yeah. So emergency management is the study of how humans create and manage hazards and vulnerability and deal with disasters. My I've had an interest in it for a while now. I did my undergraduate and thesis and undergraduate capstone research dealing with risk communication issues, sort of stuff that's on the periphery of emergency management. And when it came to tornadoes and hurricanes and stuff like that, how to get people to better respond to tornado warnings and hurricanes and stuff like that. So this has been a big interest of mine. I have an research interest in how people prepare for disasters because preparation can mean improved response. And I also have an interest in community resilience, how people can better prepare, respond, mitigate disasters,
Yeah.
and deal with them, as they happen, after they happen, recover from them, and ultimately have stronger communities in disaster. So those are sort of my interests, and yeah, I mean, I applied back in March. I did a PhD interview where I was interviewed by the department chair and two other faculty members. It's funny, it was over Zoom. So it was interesting experience just because of COVID and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, I think Dale's asking about how my interview went. I had an interview today for an assistantship. Assistantship
Way to
pays your
get it.
tuition and gets you a stipend. And it went pretty well. I thought they seemed to like me really well. They like some of my answers to their questions and stuff like that. So I should hear back next week about that.
Well, we are all
Yeah,
with
but
you. You're going to get it.
yeah,
And we're going to help you. We are here for you. But that's really great. What was I going to ask you about? Oh, with this, organizations like I always tout the climate mobilization, they're all into local emergency management, kind of like what you're doing. But I think you're going to be able to run the show. Maybe Nick will be running FEMA when we're going through like the worst of climate change. Can you imagine? I mean, Nick, you're going into I think, a very giving field. This is not just for you.
Yeah, yeah. I hope it can have some impact. It's interesting because like um, I had not very many, but I had a couple people criticize me for doing this, thinking or saying that it was going to be a waste of time and money because of the impacts of climate change and the impacts of ecological crises and everything else. It's like a tsunami, and it's true. We see the things that are coming down the pike, but but number one, we don't know what the timeline's going to look like. We don't know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. I mean, one thing about doom is that people in that state of mind can have a tendency to think things will happen much faster, even as fast as things are happening. Then there's a limit to the speed, and
Yeah.
so in the meantime, we have to think beyond our immediate like doomsday scenarios, and go to, well, I mean, you just had Reverend Michael Dowd on,
Hmm.
last week or whatever, or earlier this week, talking about, ecological crises and ecological overshoot, and he deals a lot with post doom philosophy, and you have to have a post doom state where you're thinking about, okay, we're in doom, now what? That's the big question, and now what is, you still do the things that you feel need to be
Yeah.
done to try to help fellow humans and or other species to be as resilient as possible for as long as possible. For me, I'm a good climate communicator and science communicator, and I mean that's one of the things that I think intrigued the professors at North Dakota State about me. I told them about my interviews that I've done in media, my science communication and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So they, and my background obviously in meteorology, it is something that's important to me and my way of going post doom and trying to just deal with
Yeah.
the situations as they come.
We're in post doom, so we might as well make the most of it. I
Yeah.
am in my little, where I am, and you are for everybody else. So, I want you to
Yeah.
talk to the audience for a minute. Uh, Talk a little bit more. I have to run out of the room. I have to unhook a couple of things that are on the internet to see if it helps our picture. So I'm going to put you up, me down, and just have a little conversation. I'll be right back, guys. Nick will hold the fort for 1 second. Okay. Go for it, Nick.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, so I've had, like I said, I've had an interest in emergency management for a while. I did a undergraduate thesis at the bachelor level, dealing with understanding human decision making and behavior during tornado warnings, and how and why people respond the way they do, and how we can do things to help people respond better to warnings and stuff like that. Um, so that had a big interest on me, big impression on me. And then as a graduate student at Mississippi State, I did a graduate paper, understanding how um, tropical cyclone size impacts causes greater impacts with damage in hurricanes, and from that, how can we better communicate to people the dangers of larger storms, physically larger storms, to improve response and evacuation. So I've been, sort of been dipping into this field for a while, but now I'm going to be getting intensely into it, and I'll be,
Good.
I mean, on the ground running. Like I talked to my PhD advisor 2 days ago, and she's talking about me doing a little bit of study over the summer before I even get there, and then I'd have opportunities to collaborate with a faculty member or faculty members for research during my first year. And that's stuff that could be turned into peer-reviewed papers. So I have my name in peer-reviewed papers.
Very good.
So I'll be doing a lot.
I'm excited for you. I think our shows will be even that more interesting as you go along and share with us what you're doing, what you're learning, practicums, and still with our meteorology. But this is great. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people will say, well, academia, your hands are tied. You can't say anything. You can't talk about what's really going on. Well, you're already talking about what's going on. So they obviously, and in emergency management, it's right in front of your face. I mean, right? It's right in front of your
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
Not like you can hide from a climate emergency storm that's bashing or a tsunami or whatever. Who knows what you might.
Yeah. There was actually a PhD student that had a paper published. I think it was a published paper just recently, very recently, that actually discussed climate resilience with regards to community resilience with regards to Hurricane Dorian from a few years ago in the Bahamas. So there's the discussions are already out there in emergency management dealing with climate change, the effects of climate change on communities. So it's I don't know if I'll be dealing specifically in that type of research, but it certainly will be in
I don't know yet.
these discussions and this research goes in those directions increasingly because of climate change.
So, how long does this PhD take?
It depends, obviously, on the research that I'm doing and the methods that I have to employ. Right now, my advisor was talking about being able to have the opportunity to get it done in 3 to 4 years. I have coursework I have to do. We're trying to see if I can get that done in like 2.5 years, and then I'd be able to focus the rest of my time on the dissertation and stuff.
Well, I think that you will be living your life doing what you love. And obviously, you love academia and learning. So, no matter what happens in the next 2 or 3 years, you will just be progressing in that knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I'm
cool.
excited about it. Now, somebody asked me in the chat, where am I moving to? And NDSU is in Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah. Fargo. It's a
So right now I'm
good
in,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right
What is
now I'm
the
in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's like 8 hours or
okay.
seven, not 8 hours away from here. So
So it's not that scary. It's not like
no, no.
going to another part of the world. Well, it might be. We don't know. Fargo. I don't know much about the city, but I know North Dakota. What is it? The population of one county in Manhattan in New York City, and one, the population of Queens.
It's
it's a
not a
small
lot of,
state.
yeah, I've heard there are more. I think it's North Dakota. There are more cows than people, or something like
And
that.
Kevin said, "You better be careful." He watched a TV show called Fargo, and some people were killed. Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a lot of Fargo jokes tonight. I could tell. Well,
Yeah.
it's okay. Cause are you gonna get a cowboy hat?
No.
Most stupid question of the night. Here, I'll give that one. You know what? We'll give that one the Environmental Coffee House flush of the night. We're gonna flush away the cowboy hat. Nick won't be wearing one. Nick won't be wearing one. Okay. Well, to get more, oh well, here somebody's already getting a question about the state. North Dakota will be experiencing drought. Who better to ask? Nick's probably researching that.
Yeah. They're having a lot of drought up there right now. Actually, the northern plains, and then basically the entire western U.S. is just crazy dry right now. We're getting there. Yeah, that's especially the Southwest U.S. My goodness, like extreme drought in parts of Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. It's crazy what's happening in the West right now, and in the northern plains. I think southern prairies of Canada too are really dry.
Oh boy, it's happening. I mean, you're
Yeah,
going to
this
be watching it.
fire season might be another, and unfortunately exciting one. Not in the way you want it
Unfortunately.
to be, but yeah.
Yep. Well, here it's pouring rain, and I think the connection might be my internet because we have such bad weather, and um, it's 37 degrees. So what is it? May 8th. Even in Western New York, 37 is shitty. I mean, that's yuck. It's cold and it's
Yeah.
damp, and I have to have a heater on in the greenhouse because I don't want the soil temperature of my plants to go down. They say soil temperature it can't go below 50, but it's cold and it's damp. So I don't want to
Yeah.
ruin all the hard work
Yeah.
I'm doing. Nope. So what's Cassie going to be doing?
Um, she's still figuring it out. She's thinking about going back to or going to school
Oh,
through an online program to do social work. She likes the idea of doing social work, but that she probably won't start that until fall of 2022. So
oh,
she'd be able to do that
awesome.
online,
Yeah,
and yeah,
make
so
it a
she
little one.
can follow me and do it wherever we are. So that'd be good.
Oh, I think this is just a beautiful
Yeah,
thing. It makes me so happy for you, because you're not rolling over. You're getting out there and you're seizing opportunity coming your way. So it's great because once you seize that opportunity, we've seen it now. We're going to go on to this article, and because Jim McHenry sent it, and I don't know, are we
yeah,
having some background noise? Oh, tonight's a little weird. That's always with live streaming. Yay! But Jim sent us this article, and Pennsylvania could be representative of everywhere. It is Governor Wolf 2021 climate impacts, and it projects that Pennsylvania could be 5.9. I guess they're saying Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's Fahrenheit degrees. I'll show you the article, guys.
yeah,
Warmer, 5.9 by mid-century. So that's not that far away. And let's pull it up and look at this because Jim was quite disturbed about it. Jim, are you with us? Um, I have to put this up by Kevin Hester. Jim,
yeah. For folks that need Celsius, it's 3.3 C
okay.
warmer. So yeah, it's quite a yeah 5.9 Fahrenheit, 3.3 C warmer. So that's
Yeah.
substantial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But by mid, and they're saying that, well, of course, they're planning for it. So, in that, these are the kinds of documents you'll probably be reading in your studies, the planning for these to manage these emergencies. If Pennsylvania is talking about the temperature going up and their Department of Environmental Protection, Conservation, and Natural Resources and Agriculture, they had a news conference to talk about this. The whole state. Now, isn't that funny? Because the fracking state that doesn't give a shit about
yeah,
drinking water is definitely concerned with their climate assessment. Yeah, Jim, you're here. So um, this is for you,
yeah. I
Jim.
mean, it's pretty representative of what's going to be happening everywhere. Because I mean, you have global warming,
Yeah.
which is the land plus the ocean sea surface, but the land is warming faster than the globe as a whole. So the land air temperatures. I think the record was around 1.8, 1.9 C globally above pre-industrial. I mean, it's already really high, um, whereas the globe as a whole is lagging behind the land air temperature rise. So I mean, the changes in land land areas, the land masses is pretty. It's gonna be pretty profound in the next you know 20, 30 years. I mean, you're talking, a lot of glaciers are going to melt. You're going to have. I think it was last year I did these local climate reports on YouTube, where I recorded them on YouTube
Yeah.
on my YouTube channel. I don't really use it very much, but Weatherman 474747 is my YouTube channel,
I'll put it in.
and I did these local climate reports for particular cities, just based on data that's available on the internet, and from various sites. And I did Lincoln, Nebraska, did San Francisco, did Seattle, did all these various cities to understand the changes that are expected just from the climate models, as they are. And the changes could be faster than the climate models anticipate because of, various feedback loops and stuff like that. So I mean, the changes are profound. Sea level rising in coastal areas and being in the swamp, coastal areas of cities, and you're getting more intense heat waves. There are places where, especially in the middle of the country, where you go from a handful of 95, 100-degree days a year to like a whole bunch of them.
Wow. Yeah.
By mid-century, it just gets so much hotter in the summers. So I mean, these has effects on wildlife, human health, infrastructure, going, hydrology swinging rapidly from drought to flood to drought again. I mean, that's what's happening in parts of the West.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, many parts of the West are just dealing with drought that's just never ending. It's um, you almost have to argue whether it's a drought or it's just climate change changing
Ah,
the climate there, so it's just dry all the time. There's sort of the perma drought, as they call
perma
it.
drought. That's a good one.
Yeah. So I mean,
Perma
it's
drought.
whereas the eastern third of the country, 2/3 of the country are dealing with increasing amounts of rainfall, heavy rainfall events, flooding events.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I did a post on my Patreon about it's going around about the new climate normals released by NOAA. And, they show the climate, the normals are the temperatures are rising, and in many places, the amount of precipitation is either dropping or falling compared to previous climate normal periods. And so you have these long-term changes occurring in temperatures and hydrology that are going to have devastating impacts on humans and animals and plant life that are unable to adapt to those changes because they're happening so fast.
Yeah, as I read that Pennsylvania report, I kept thinking about the farming and the animals. I mean, we already know about crops are going to be in trouble, but what about the animals? Are they still going to mass factory farm? What are they going to do? Put all the cows in air conditioned buildings because they're going to drop dead outside? I mean, this is where we have to drastically change our lifestyles. And I hope if you get the opportunity, being that you're going for this PhD, that you may join a community or be, I don't know what, but about how we have to change, not just go to green energy, not just green cars, but we have to change our lifestyles without getting kicked out of school, though.
Yeah.
See, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of profound changes have to occur to have any chance of being able to adapt to these changes in any meaningful way, and that's challenging for people, especially. It's hard because people aren't taught about how serious things are, and I mean, we're given like quick little solutions that are supposedly solutions that will make us feel better about the future, but it's not really um, communicating the seriousness of the situation effectively so that people will feel more compelled to make the changes that need to be done at an individual and really at a societal and economic scale. I mean, there's some profound stuff that you have to do um, in order to have any chance at all. And many people either aren't willing to do it or they don't understand that, even understand just how serious it is. So don't even have an opportunity to think about doing it.
Well, while you're going through school, it'll be interesting to know through the years if the information gets more pronounced, or if it like gets worse, or if the professors change their tune a little bit, if there's more, uh, which we all don't want to see, changes
Yeah,
to the negative,
yeah.
you know. That will
Well,
be interesting for
2020s will
us.
be will probably be a very pivotal decade. I think. I mean, late 2010s, mid to late 2010s, we're already really starting to see more profound climate impacts, and from the more intense hurricanes
Oh
to
yeah.
more intense heat waves, global drought, heavier rainfall events. You're really starting to like notice it's becoming more noticeable to people in the mid to late 2010s. So the 2020s will probably be a very profound decade, I think, in terms of a phase shift in people's minds that they see these changes going on. But I mean, how much will it shift people to focus more on doing the things that need to be done to try to mitigate and adapt to these changes is the question, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens.
If you guys have questions, could you put a Q in front of it? Because I can't find one of our Jinpy Gamma. Sandy, please mention that to Nick, but I have to find what I have to mention to you. So if you have questions for Nick, let's put a Q in front of it so I can flag it and see it. All right, Nick. So because I can't tell you what she wanted to say, but oh, here's one. Tom says the nighttime temps here in the Rockies have been on the rise for 20 years, but then Bim Jim, who's with us, he said North British Columbia has been the same, but it hasn't changed. So he says he's seeing no difference. I don't know if you know that area.
I I don't know necessarily specific areas, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean there are some areas that are changing faster than others. Like I mean the Central Plains actually haven't warmed as dramatically as say the Western U.S. and but the Western U.S. has gotten much drier, while the eastern third of the or two thirds of the country has gotten much wetter. So
Yeah, it
some
is at my
places
house.
experience one extreme versus another extreme, while some places are getting relatively less changes over time. But everywhere is seeing something has changed
Yeah,
about their climate.
Eugene, Oregon is. My brother has never seen it like this ever. He's been there 45, 43 years, something like that. And he says it's just
Mm-hmm.
insane. The drought is insane. He's not used to it. And it upsets them. It really does. Because they know. They have grandchildren. So, of
Yeah, I
course,
mean, I've noticed. I mean,
yeah.
Seattle, especially this decade, is even though I haven't lived there since consistently since 2008, I know it's gotten even since 2008, it's gotten a lot more tendency for drought, more tendency for heat, more heat, fires. Yeah, it's crazy. Changes are underway.
Jinpy, it's howdy. That's what I think she wanted to say, howdy. So that yes, the changes are underway. Well, they are here, but I suppose again, some people are going to maybe not with us, but there's probably a lot of people that don't notice, are in denial, don't care. But
Yeah,
but there are a lot that do. The subtleties in their areas. I mean, I obviously do with the fact that I garden and plant and I look at the trees, but a lot of people are oblivious. And then in our culture, a lot of people never go outside. They don't go outside.
yeah,
They're working inside all the time. So that's a bit of a thing, right? Well, let's see what's going
yeah,
on in the
yeah. I
chat.
mean, there's.
Oh, go ahead, Dick.
I was
I'm
gonna
just
say, yeah, there's a lot of people either in denial or oblivious. I mean,
yeah.
I've encountered both, and it's strange. You know what's happening when you to see people that are kind of in the matrix, so to speak, and don't understand what's going on around them.
Okay, well, I'm getting some
Yeah, running.
questions. I'm getting some questions, and Kevin Hester. Actually, I'm going to bring Kevin's up, Nick, because he's got two. So let's go. Let's say hi to our friend Kevin Hester. It's so nice to have you here, Kevin. Uh, okay, there's two, and let's go. Oh, Kevin, you've got. I think you're on Facebook and YouTube. All right, let's go with this one. So, what does Nick think about the latest prediction from Scripps that we can have an ice free Arctic Ocean next year? A good question, Kevin.
Uh, well, I haven't seen it, but I'm always really skeptical about predictions about the ice-free Arctic, just because it's just very hard to predict um, on anything but a very short time scale, because individual weather events can mitigate the melting, in the summer, or can accelerate it, as what happened in 2012, for example, where you had a series of storms that just destroyed a bunch of thin ice and left much of the Arctic Ocean ice free. So I know where the trend is going, and the trend is headed for an ice free state in the summer, at least.
Well,
Certainly by maybe by the end of this decade, the
okay.
beginning of the next decade.
Well,
I wouldn't.
the Scripps
I
research had. We did a show on it last week, so if you get a chance to catch up on it, the research was interesting.
mhm.
An oceanographic institute, but they're doing talking about this. Um, so don't forget, because we did it already. And I know you're so busy. I know you're so busy. Let me get the second one from Kevin. What does Nick think about? Oh, it's the same question. Oh, I see what happened. He asked it both on Facebook and YouTube. All right, Kevin, that's where you are. And all right, let's see, Gary. I have read recently that the warm Pacific Ocean currents have been melting Arctic ice from under the bottom up. Mm.
Yeah, I've heard
So
something
have
about that
we.
too. I'd have to
So have we.
read more about it, but yeah, yeah, I've definitely heard about that.
Hey, Torstein, going south is with us. See, this is a real homey night tonight. This is like,
Yeah.
we're sitting in the living room and we're talking, and I didn't plan a whole lot of stuff, so we're just chilling. We're just chilling. Nick's tired. I'm tired, so here we are. I got another question. You up for it, Nick? Rick Larson, our permaculture
Sure.
buddy. I never miss a video. How much influence do you think cutting down the climax forests have had on climate change? Ooh.
I'm not sure I know what that is, the climax forest. Uh,
Okay.
I know.
Somebody look it up really quick. Are you talking about primary forests, Rick? Uh, uh, yeah, primary forests, big old growth
Now, I,
forests.
now, I, now, I, now, just talking about forests in general. Um, I know, especially with the Amazon rainforest, for example, it supplies all the evapotranspiration,
Oh, here he is.
supplies a lot of rainfall to the region. And so when you chop down a huge amount of forest, it gets rid of a lot of that rainfall, and you end up changing the region. And that's why the region is concerned that the region will change to open savanna, because you end up having a tipping point where you lose a lot of forests, and suddenly you don't have the rainfall anymore, and it just becomes a lot more arid than it used to be in the region. And some people are concerned that tipping point's already been reached with the Amazon rainforest. And it's just a matter of time before the climate in the region catches up to that, and you have arid savanna versus open rainforest. So, so yeah,
I've got
it's
two definitions for this, Nick. Climax, a plant community dominated by trees representing the culminating stage of natural succession for that specific locality and environment. A climax community is a relatively stable and undisturbed plant community that has evolved through stages and adapted. So I guess it's the adaptation part. And Peter had put it up too. Thank you, Rick, for this. Maybe we're going to learn something tonight from you. So actually, it's a plant community. It's the undergrowth, I guess, the old undergrowth. Do you have an idea about that particular, that they have, what might make it or adapt?
I think so. I took trying to remember because I took a course in environmental conservation at South Dakota State, but that was way back in like 2013. And I think I may have learned about something like this.
Well, Rick,
but I'd have to look more.
Okay, he said you were on it anyway. You got it anyway. So yeah, all right. So
okay.
But we still wanted to go around for those of us like me who had no idea at the moment what it was. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Rick. He's great. All right. Jin P. Gamma. Nick, are you aware of the mantle wobble shift being caused by ice melt? The inertia change. Oh, you're getting your brain exercise tonight, buddy.
I do not. I don't know about that. I'm sorry to say.
Wow. Well, you know what? We need to bring you on with Jim Massa together and put the two of you together. And I think then we would have there we have a show. Got to do that before you leave for school. Oh, look, everybody's giving us the climax forest definition. You guys are all so awesome. All right, let's see. Oh, Osama. Okay, Osama. Brad Friedman and Sammy Roth from the LA Times said last night that 95% of California's energy came from all renewables for 4 seconds yesterday. What's wrong with that statement? Let's all try to answer that one. So 4 seconds, 95% of California.
So 4 seconds.
That means it really works. Boy. Oh, come on, guys. I wish we had like everybody. We could hear what everybody's saying instead of just the chat. Come on, guys. Let's hear your answer to Osama's. That's cool. Let's see. Any more questions? We'll wait to see what people say about that. Is it feasible for individuals to move biomes northward? Now, that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a soil scientist, but I know I've heard concerns that while the climate of, say, Canada, Russia, and such will become more favorable in terms of air temperatures for certain crops that currently grow in, say, the United States and in southern regions of Europe, the soils may not necessarily be as capable of having those crops. So soil types matter because obviously, ice ages and other things have made the soils different up farther north than they are to the south. And there's other, reasons related to, the formation of the land and the continents and, why some soils are better suited for some crops than other soils. Like I said, I'm not an expert in that matter, but I know that's been a concern that I've heard. So,
right.
By, moving, species and people moving farther north, they're going to encounter the limitations that those regions have. Certain things open up, like air temperatures are more comfortable. There may be more rainfall, stuff like that. But what are the limitations of the environments that cannot be changed that you have to face when you go north? So.
Okay. I got you there. And then they were asking about Michael Dowd's wife, who was working on just what you were talking about, migrating.
Oh, yeah. Dealing with like assisting plant migration and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean that is a pretty cool thing. But when you have extreme climate change, there may be a limit to that. But obviously, we aren't there yet, so there's still some utility in perhaps in doing stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think Phil had said not crops, um, natural biomes, and forests. So is it feasible Phil? Are you talking about
Or
humans moving
moving, yeah,
large, try to recreate these biomes and forests that were natural up there? Or is that they're going to move just like species, animals are moving, different insects and birds are actually
yeah,
starting to
insects.
move.
Yeah, it could be all of the above. I mean, humans, manually doing the work, and then also the movement of animals and plants and insects farther north, shifting the biomes north too. But you have to think how fast can they do that? I mean, um, climate change is happening very rapidly compared to natural climate change. So the to be able to shift northward or say poleward, since we got people in the southern hemisphere,
Yeah.
poleward is going to be challenging because of the speed that's required to do it, and also the any limitations for the environment, like the soil environment and whatnot, in those northern or poleward regions. So
It's
it's
huge.
something that's yeah, it's huge,
Have to
and
ask
you
Jackie
wonder just
Heinel.
how fast animals and plants can adapt.
Yeah. Well, Jackie Heinel is the soil expert that has the page on Facebook, Send the Bill to the Fossil Fuel Industry. And she's a big activist around here, and she's a friend of mine. And I have really had to have had her on, and I haven't. So maybe we can get Jackie on to get some of our soil questions and those kind of questions answered, guys, in the future. That sound good? If she's watching this, Jackie, it's time. Yeah, it's like I always look at the people around me. Who can I match up that are just amazing? That would be amazing together, And I see that in all of you. Who would be amazing together? There's quite a few of all of you that I surround myself with. This wonderful team at ECH. I'm gonna miss you though if you have to take more time than just every couple of months. I hope we can do our shows together. We have to do State of the Planet. We can't not. We have to. Absolutely. All right. So let's see if we had an answer about that from Osama, and I'm trying to find it. That was good, Osama. The answer to the energy question. Um, oh my goodness. Let's find it. I didn't put a star on it. Oh, darn it. Guys, help me out here. Give us some more questions while I find that answer that Osama had. Okay, here it is. See, live streaming, always going to have something. Answer for the Brad question. It that 95% of electricity, not energy, and neglects the major portion that is fossil powered cars, trucks, ovens, stoves, heating, and it excluded LA. Okay, so he was kind of giving us a gotcha. A little gotcha. That's interesting, Osama. Send me a link to that if you can in the email. That might be an interesting one for our page. All right, so guys, we've been talking for about 45 minutes, and I know Nick's tired, and he wanted to give his exciting news. West Virginia vegan question: isn't that what the GM folks are doing, working on creating drought-resistant crops? Not sure how that will work out. All right, that was from before. Everybody's working on genetically modified everything.
Yeah, I mean they're doing drought-resistant crops. I've heard, like, I've seen news stories about heat and um, acidic resistant coral. So trying to create coral that can deal with a more hotter, more acidic ocean water. There's all sorts of things. Humans, humans will use technology to do anything possible to try to stave off the worst impacts. Which um, you could see the good in that, but you could also see the bad in that because some of the things they may come up with might seem crazy, and may have backfire consequences, like trying to increase the aerosols in the atmosphere, which I've heard could have effects on global precipitation and stuff like that, or create some kind of shield in space to decrease the amount of solar energy reaching the Earth to try to stave off global warming. And all of these things that seem like science fiction, they're trying to make them science facts. It's just a matter of, like, are we gonna go so fast with technology that we forget about the possible negative impacts of doing that? I know some people have argued with Paul Beckwith, who I think kind of is in that geoengineering thinking. I think he's like a physicist engineer type, so he's really into some of that stuff, or thinking about that stuff at least. And some people are worried about the negative consequences of that. That's a discussion that has to be had amongst people. How far do we want to go? And it also begs the question: how serious or how feasible are we? Is it really to degrow the economy so that you don't have all this carbon being pumped into the atmosphere in the first place, like a volcano, like a continuous volcano?
Right.
Just all this carbon and methane and nitrous oxide we're just pumping into the atmosphere. What if we're having to do all of these geoengineering of things to try to prevent the heat from coming into the system in the first place and just overheating the planet? So we have to think about how we deal with this, trying to manage a predicament, which is really, which by definition is very challenging.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it from the source, all the pollution you're putting in the atmosphere, as well as the geoengineering aspect? So that's a discussion that humanity has to have with itself. Where do you want to go? Because I don't know if I necessarily want a giant solar shield in space.
Well, how about this? Is from Rick. What is your view on carbon sequestration? And have you thought about sequestering atmospheric carbon into the soil through plants and trees? Well, I guess you have, Rick.
Yeah, it's kind of like a race against time, because it takes a lot of time for big trees to grow and mature and do that abundant carbon sequestering, because trees can live for hundreds of years, but they got to get going. And at the same time, you're doing it while the climate is changing in the region that you're planting those trees, and you have to deal with, okay, can those plants and trees deal with the changes in their local environment as they're growing and maturing and sequestering carbon back into the earth. So it's I don't see, and I see utility in doing that, but at the same time, we have to understand that that by itself it may not be enough to deal with all of the carbon that's in the atmosphere by itself, and also be able to deal with the changes that are occurring in the local environment that could potentially have harm the trees as they're maturing. So it's challenging, but as one possible thing you can do I think it has utility. I don't see why you wouldn't try to do it. Try to rewild land and have um, um, plants, trees. I mean, I know that the old um, grasslands that used to exist here on the plains, they had very deep roots that went deep into the ground compared to the compared to like long grass
Hmm.
that has very little root
Right.
system. Is that the old environment that used to be here before settlers came was probably great at sequestering carbon. Now it's just replaced by all this cropland, and it's gonna
It's
not gonna cut it. But on the other hand, we humans depend on that cropland, either directly eating those crops or feeding them to our to our animals who we eat. So it's like then now you start talking about how do you deal with dietary changes so yeah you're not depending so much on feeding this mass population of animals
we have to
that you have
stop.
incorporated into diets. There's a lot of complex issues that are really hard to change because humans have certain inertia where they just it's hard to change human behavior. Um,
I'd like to
but
see us
you have
stop
to
eating
change
meat.
quickly because yeah.
I really would. I mean, over time, well, I've hated factory farming and I just think it's not going to be sustainable. It's not sustainable now. And it is
Yeah.
not sustainable. And as I've learned from watching Rick Larson's videos and all, that you can have food forests and you can have permaculture. You can have it on a city lot. You can grow pretty much everything you need if you have the willpower or the if there's other people that teach. I wonder, Nick, as part of emergency management, if growing food and getting rid of lawns, things like that, could be part of the conversation. Hey, you might be in a position to maybe make change, right? Don't know.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, actually. All right. Well, let's see. Rich has rewilded his 5 acres. Amish neighbors think he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That's okay. Hell with them. You do
Really.
what you need to do. They should be rewilding. They really should. I live near them, and I don't think they rewild it enough if they do at all. Uh, what will hurricane season look like this year, Nick? Here's one you can get your arms around. We love that. Yeah,
It's
scary.
looking like it'll be another active season in the Atlantic, but whether it's as crazy as it was last year, is hard to tell. Um, but it does look like it could be above normal year, which seems like we say that a lot now.
Yeah, we do.
Above normal
Every
years in the
show.
Atlantic. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
every show, every single show.
But how many of
Okay.
those storms actually hit land is impossible to know. So even if it's a below normal year, all it takes is one. All you have to do is ask
One.
people that were in Hurricane Andrew. So yeah,
Yeah, and the warmer the ocean is, that's right. That one storm could be the
yeah.
one. Could be the one. Jim, oh, here's one. What is your dream at the end of your studies? Maybe you were talking about it earlier, but Tanya might have missed it. What is your dream? Do you have a dream?
I'm still trying to sort of figure out what I want to do with myself. I mean, with a PhD, I'll be, able to be in academia, be a professor, teach and do research and stuff. But also, I think I have more of an interest toward trying to be out in the
Yeah.
field, actually doing something. That's sort of more of my goal. And I mean, I even told my PhD advisor, I would like one of my practicums if I can find something to be an actual internship for some kind of agency or something, either a volunteer agency or a government agency, but to get that experience, because I think that's really where the important work, needs to be done. And I'll definitely be especially doing the PhD. I'll be doing the research and
Mm-hmm.
writing a lot
Yeah.
and putting out papers. So
You're good at that. You're
yeah,
really good at
that'll be
that.
my job.
It's okay. This is what you're good at. I think you're going to do a great job. I think it's going to be really great for you and for us to learn because we're going to be with you right along the way, right? Right. All right. Here's one more question. We've got a few more. We've been on almost an hour. Wow, it went fast. See, we get on together and it's like whoosh. Time just goes and flies. Does Nick agree with some research that the Southwest is and has been in a mega drought for years? Did you answer that already? Is this a question?
Yes.
Did I have
Well,
this?
I think I touched on it.
Okay.
Touched on the perma drought, but yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely say that yeah, they seem to not be getting out of drought, or alternatively, they get out, but only briefly. So the drought seems to be the predominant state that they're in, whereas getting out of drought condition is just transient. It's just passing. So that would be a perma drought state where it doesn't necessarily mean you're in drought every single moment of every single day, every single year, but it's the predominant state that you're in hydrologically.
And there
You're
you
not
go.
seeing enough water in your region. And I mean, in the long term, if you're having more evaporation than you're having condensation and precipitation, that's the climatological definition of a desert. Now, if you're already in the desert, then it's just desert. But if you're in an area in the Southwest where it's not such an intense desert, then it just means you're going to get worse into a desert state, which of course you have people living either in the desert or on the
Yeah.
periphery of deserts that are expanding at that point. And that means water stresses, water wars between jurisdictions because the Colorado River is going to drop off and other rivers are going to drop off year after year.
Oh.
More years than not, you're going to have less and less water, which affects, obviously we're talking about human impacts, but of course that affects wildlife too. I mean, I think I
Yeah.
remember a few years ago, there were like wild animals dropping dead in the middle of
Right in the middle.
Arizona and parts of New Mexico because it was so dry and they couldn't find water. And I think I heard about that in Mexico too. It got so hot, you had, like animals dying of heat stroke.
This is what I can't handle. This is what I can't handle. We
Yeah.
have to stop breeding them, and we have to stop. We have to absolutely stop, and we have to stop breeding dogs, and we have to stop breeding cats, and people have to get their animals neutered, and we have to stop abusing animals because they are going to suffer, if not worse than people, because people don't care about them in the long run. Okay, that's my spiel. I hate it, and if we don't change our lifestyles, it's going to be one big mess. One big mess, but you have the opportunity to help with that mess. So let's take a couple of more questions. Will the Amazon forest become a desert?
Certainly could become a savanna at least, which would
Savannas.
be a lot different. You look at the Amazon rainforest versus looking at the African savanna. Imagine that switch off. But I mean, there's certainly, if it were to get even drier than that, then obviously it would become a desert. So that's a pretty terrible scenario because I mean I grew up like everybody else seeing documentaries about the Amazon and all the abundance of biodiversity and just the trees, the canopy and the rainforest and then learning in meteorology how it affects that region climatologically with moisture, retainment of moisture, and aiding in rainfall, the feedback that causes it to rain, and then retains that moisture, and you get evapotranspiration, you get more rain. So it just feeds back to keep itself sustained, but you lose that when you lose the forest. global warming and deforestation. So, so yeah, savanna would eliminate a lot of species that depend on the shelter and the home that the trees provide, and that the growth, the undergrowth provides. So yeah, that would be a tragedy if that occurs. And I mean, the path we're on with warming of the planet, it's potentially, and deforestation in the region. It's an inevitability. It will happen on the path that we're on right now.
Yep, it's the path. Let's see, Nick. One more question. Nick, have you heard anything about the Ogallala aquifer drying up?
I've heard increasing concerns about it. I don't know how close, relatively speaking, we are to a catastrophic loss of water from the Ogallala aquifer, but I mean it's getting hammered by agriculture and by drought in the western plains, the high plains. They get some of that drought spreading from the western U.S. into the high plains, and less water going in than is coming out. So that's going to be something that will probably become a major impact in the not too distant future.
Oh gosh.
So
the not too distant future. Those are,
in other words, not 2100. It's going to be a lot closer that you're dealing with loss of water in aquifers.
Oh, and a loss of water to Nestle. I heard today that Nestle has bought up, I think, 3 or 4 times their contract with California. They're just abusing it, and they only pay, what, $2,500 a year? It's ridiculous. Everybody boycott Nestle, completely boycott every single product. Don't buy it. Don't buy that company. And I don't know what the hell is wrong with California. Karen Reese, you live in California. What the hell is wrong with your state? I'm pretty sure it was California that they are. And then you buy the bottled water. I mean, they're making billions of dollars off of ripping off the water, and it's going into a drought. I'm on my soapbox tonight, Nick, with this. The water, the animals, the everything.
The bottles never decompose.
No, yeah,
it's like hundreds of years to decompose. Yeah,
completely a cluster. Yeah. Fuck, we're not monetized. It's clusterfuck. It is. It just is. Well, guys, we are 1 hour and 3 minutes. Nick, it flew by. Do you have a parting gift for our audience? As I put on, I wish I had the parting gift music.
Parting gift music. Yeah. You have music for every situation.
Parting gift music.
Nothing too bad. Nothing specific to say, but folks can obviously follow me on Patreon. They can follow me on Patreon. Everything I put is publicly available, but if people want to follow me with a small contribution, that's always helpful. Otherwise, I do most of my day-to-day social media activity on Facebook, on Meteorologist Nick Humphrey
I'll
Facebook
show it again
page.
One more time. Right there. There you go. There it is. So don't miss it on his Patreon, too. Good stuff. Good stuff if you're on Facebook. And I know a lot of people are not when they're on YouTube. But if not, only for Environmental Coffee House Facebook page, where you get the news every 2 hours for the last 5 years that's been going on. And Nick's page full of everything. No, really, Nick, when I started that page, it was like sometimes really hard to find anything to print on climate change and environmental issues. And now you can't. There's a plethora because it's gotten bad, and now the media noticed it. So obviously it's been noticed. Things are happening. It's just, is it being noticed by the right people? And we had the last comment is going to be human love and solidarity. Why are we waiting for authorities to speak truth? Well, we're not human. Unfortunately, I don't know who we are, but we are not. We're speaking it to all 500 people that might see the video, since YouTube has an algorithm issue with letting us out the door. So, and I don't know, but all right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Don't worry, Nick is not leaving us. He will have a lot of changes, but he will be back, and we will do States of the Planet, and we have to. How could we not? Right, Nick?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll still be around, even doing the PhD. So
That's right. And I want to say happy Mother's Day to all the mothers. I am not sure yet if Jennifer and I are doing a show on Sunday night, because I did an interview with a really interesting PhD and Dr. Seema Aguskan from Cyprus, and it was great, and his channel, and I'm going to share that. I might share that on Sunday night. And everybody says good night, Nick. This was great. Thank you all, and peace out, and happy, and especially to your wife too, Nick. Happy Mother's Day to those to all you mothers out there. Absolutely.